Hello from Nashville.
Hello from Nashville. It's June 23rd. It's a Thursday. It's hot. Welcome aboard, everybody.
It's hot.
It is hot. Today it's the Crushing Iron podcast you're listening to, and this is about to be episode 593. Well, yeah, 600 seems like a lot. I know we're not there yet, and you can't really count your eggs before they hatch, but 600 is one of those numbers that seems like quite a few podcasts to have done.
It is, yeah. But it's just a testament to just keep showing up and
keep
showing up, take care of themselves.
Very, very average individuals. Yeah, just showing up. That will be 25 full days. I just did the math. 25 full days
of you.
Podcasting.
It's very Hayden of you.
Is very Hayden of me. Yeah. So if you ever ask me how many days of my life I've spent podcasting, I can say 25 full days, almost basically a month of my life. You and I have dedicated to talking to each other over the airwaves and putting it out to let people listen or judge us, whenever, any way they like. And you might be doing that right now already. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a few options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Your time is super valuable, so we do appreciate tuning in today. We covered all. We will do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We will do race previews, but we also do a lot of race recaps. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through as humans and also coaches and athletes ourselves. We also frequently talk about what our own athletes are going through. We work with a very wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level amateurs trying to do their very first sprint or even 5K, all the way up through elite level amateurs and everyone in between, and from all over. Again, most of our athlete rosters here in the U.S., but we work with quite a few athletes across the globe. So if you're interested and think we're too far away, toss us an email from across the pond and see if we might be a good fit for you, mate. And we'll use the feedback loop we have with them and the communication and trainee peaks, emails, text messages, phone calls, whatever it is, FaceTime, you name it, to drive the topic of the day. Because we work with a very wide range of athletes from all different kind of lifestyles and goals, single, married, divorced, dating, kids, no kids, 5 kids, 1 kids, crazy jobs, normal jobs, 9 to 5, remote work, traveling, shift work, we've seen it all. We've coached them all. And so, for the most part, the athletes we work with are very much I would say the sum of the average triathlete, and so we have a very the ability to kind of, be able to relate to a wide range of athletes, which is, I think why our podcast has been so, mediocrely successful, is that we are kind of the Seinfeld average Joe. We're just the normal people. We're the 80%ers. We're not the greatest. We're not the worst. We're smack dab in the middle. But we will use the topics again from them and drive the topic of the day. We'll also go to our Facebook group like we're going to do today, and finish up our doubleheader from Monday. Do a little bit of Q&A. Again, you can go on Facebook, search Crushing Iron Group. Great conversation, great people. Don't be a lurker. Participate. Be a contributing member of that community. And there's a lot of great people in there willing to lend a hand, that have been through it, that have seen it, and have years and years and years of experience. And the goal is to not to take shortcuts. Which is what everyone else is about. Take as many shortcuts and hacks as possible. But the goal is to avoid as many mistakes and pitfalls as you possibly can. And there's plenty of people out there, myself included. You've done it too. We've had our share of pitfalls and mistakes. So if we can help you avoid those, and it's not fast tracking your way to success. It's it's in a way doing that just by minimizing the amount of mistakes you make, right? And the learning experiences are great, but if you don't have to learn them, you can just learn them through someone else's mistake. Then that's the goal. And so a lot of great people in there. And that's it. We don't do sponsors. We most certainly don't do ads. And the only agenda that we do have and that we are very passionate about is doing our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, and we're here to save you time and money.
Yeah, we are here to save you time.
No, but that's why I always say to people ask about coaching or whatever, why, especially if you're kind of new in the sport. And, when I started with you saved me a lot of time, man. As you've been through some stuff and then that was almost 10 years ago, I think. Unbelievable. But
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much time we save each other. We've been talking to each other now for 25 days worth of podcasting.
Yeah, that's true. But back in the day, man,
It's been a
yeah,
great ride, man.
yeah, it's been a great ride. All right, well, thanks for that, everybody.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, signing off. Oh, we're signing back on, and we're.
Hey, I thought we were going to talk about open water swimming.
We are there. There's actually a question. Yeah, no, I know we suck. We really do suck sometimes. But no, we get that. It's a question we got coming down from Kristen here. The second question we'll get to today is about open water swimming. So we'll kind of use that. And that was, I think, her friendly reminder of saying, you guys said twice last week you were going to talk about open water swimming, and yet here we are, second podcast of the week, and you haven't even talked about it. So, Kristen, it's coming. I promise. Chung Park says, advice for returning back to training from illness or injury. Did escape from Alcatraz and then was hammered by COVID last week. Thoughts on easing back into training. There's a couple more below that, kind of like saying ditto, and I feel the same way. I've been, listen, to me,
very careful.
Yeah, to me, yeah. I mean, like, I think we try to over specialize, whatever it is we have or don't have, or injury or stress, and like, hey, but what about this specifically? Can I do to? I'm like, listen, like, just use common sense. Like, if you don't feel good, then you don't train. Like, I use a very, very simple formula. If it's from the chin up and it's just a sinus or something like that, you can probably keep going. Zone 1, zone 2, flush it out. If it's anything below the chin, like in your lungs, then you need to just rest. Sleep, rest until you feel better. And then when you feel better, just like an injury, wait a day. At least a day. No one's ever said, when they cross the finish line in a race, man, I raced great, I got a PR, but man, I'm pretty sure I could have taken off at least 10 more minutes had I come back a day sooner. I mean, I know it. Like I listened to this podcast and they said, once you feel great, and you feel all the way back and you feel 100%, wait a day. Whether it's sickness or it's injury. And I'm pretty sure if I had came back a day earlier, I could have smashed this race. No one's ever said that. What people do say is, I think it came back too quick. They dig themselves a hole. The dirt's still on the shovel, right, of filling in the hole they dug, and they're already doing it again. And that's just it's one of those things that most people takes a bad experience for them to really, really learn it. We always tell athletes, I wouldn't say I'm overcautious with athletes in terms of injury and stuff like that and sickness, but I always say, like, listen, your number one job is to be healthy. That's it. Your number one job is to be healthy. So if you find yourself in an unhealthy state, sickness, injury, even overstressed, you haven't slept enough, you've been eating like shit, to me, those are all like those won't be identified, right, as being sick. Like, for this is an example. This is neither you or I would ever be considered a doctor, and there's probably plenty of doctors and surgeons that listen to this podcast and are like, the hell you shouldn't, be any kind of a medical professional. But there has been plenty of times, and I'm sure you're the same way, where I'm in really, really fit, like healthy shape, and I have like a mild cold, but I'm sleeping fine, I'm eating right. I genuinely feel great. So I keep training. There are also times when I haven't had any kind of symptoms of any cold or anything, but I'm not sleeping good, right? And I'm not making good food choices. And I feel 20 times worse than when I have a cold. I mean, it's not even close sometimes. Like, that's how terrible I feel. What's the recommended remedy for that? Either easy training or catch up on sleep. Right. I just think we try to really, really like specialize. And when I say specialize, I mean, like, make us feel special, or make something a little too exact. Like, if you don't feel good, don't train. Like, it really is that simple. I don't know why we've like come to overanalyze things so much, and like learning your body and knowing the signs of like what's good and what's not. Zone 1 and zone 2, if you don't feel great, and see how that does. And if it doesn't feel great, stop short, walk yourself back, stay close to home, hop on the trainer, easy spin, but it's like there are different levels. Same with same with being injured, right? Injury is a big word. And I think there's a very different, my old football coach in high school used to say, and he was old school, probably wasn't the greatest, but he said there's a big difference in being hurt and being injured. He's like, being hurt, you can play, you can't, which I think it's true. And I think everyone has their own definition of what being quote unquote hurt is. I think every other run I have of the week, my foot is in like excruciating pain for the first 10 steps. And then I keep going and I feel fine. But I think, listening to your body, don't come back from injury. If your doctor says 2 weeks, probably add a few days. Just be really, because what you don't want to do is be right back where you started. And that goes with all things in life, and just being responsible. And it's not about being too careful and too safe. It's about, protecting the one body that you got and doing the best thing that you can to kind of get it back into, condition to where you can train it again. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I know you've got, you're this, I think, kind of a similar opinion, but, rushing things back, no matter what it is never a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of people have a tendency, including me, sometimes to want to force it out, right? Like fast, like overpower an illness or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's something that's kind of like worked its way into the fibers of your being. So, it's kind of like, I guess cleaning up, if there's like a stain on your counter and it's been sitting, like you went on vacation and forgot the coffee was spilled or whatever, you don't come back and just like with sandpaper and get that thing out of there. You kind of like let it sort of dissipate through some like some liquid or some kind of cleaner or whatever. Just let it sink in a while, and it's just like let it slowly kind of ease up or whatever, because man, it's just like a tendency. I think triathletes, type A people or whatever, it's like, damn it, I'm sick of being sick. I'm going to get over this right now. You just go out and hammer out a run or something like that, when it's just not. It just doesn't seem to work that way. Your body's going to be like, excuse me, I need this energy to get rid of this crap, and you're taking away energy from the healing process here. So that's kind of what it comes down to. And then we talk about sleeping, and that's like when the most good work happens to your body as far as recovery and rebuilding and things like that. And we just got to rest it, man. I think a lot. And there's just these fine lines, when you kind of like feel like you want to go crush a run or something, you should maybe just go for a walk, because how many times I felt better today, so I went out for a run, and then like 2 days later they're worse. That stuff happens a lot, it seems like.
Almost always. And like the impulse thing is always the wrong decision, right? And like it's like if you have somebody like eats really, really bad on the weekend, Friday night, I had too much to drink or ate like shit Saturday, Sunday, what do they do Monday? Overstarve themselves, right? To make up for the shittiness they feel for the weekend. And then what are they doing by Monday night or Tuesday lunch? Mexican restaurant, unlimited cheese dip.
Yeah, I'm back, baby.
Chimichangas and margaritas. And they're back because they went. It's this the pendulum swings back and forth. Like you said, and a lot of people do. Like, I'm just gonna force it out. I need to get a good sweat. Like, I don't disagree. I generally believe raising your core temp is a great way to fight off infection in a lot of ways. Which is why, like, even if I feel like remotely okay, and I think I might be getting sick, I choose to go run, because I do think that raising your core temp is a great way to fend things off. But you have to do it responsibly. I'm not going to go out and do 45 minutes of threshold, right? And like, there's just in my opinion, you always have to play the long game. And triathletes are really, really bad at playing the long game. They play the short game, and they see one race, and that's their next race as the end of their career. And if I miss this, then it's over. Instead of like looking like, hey, how is this going to affect me, the rest of the next 2 or 3 years, or the rest of my entire season, right? Or, how is this going to set me way back? Because injuries, once you get injured, like for real injured, stress fracture, tears, whatever it is, you're more likely to get injured again. That's just a fact. And so whatever you can do to delay that, or once you have, you see it all the time in professional sports. You see so-and-so tears their ACL again in like their second practice, back, from a year off from tearing their ACL before, or Achilles. I'm like, so once it happens, it's more likely to happen again. But what you can do is do your best to prevent it from happening again by kind of, hedging your bet and being super smart and not rushing back.
Yeah. And you're right, man. The struggle is real with that, the patience. And I keep thinking about, like, we always talk about building your base before you go too hard or whatever. You have to be ready to be able to handle that kind of training. And I'm kind of bad at that. I went up, Emily and I were in Madison. We ran the lake path the other day, and it was truly a zone 2 run. And because, as far as like complicating things again, it's sort of like I knew it was zone 2 because we were talking, right? And it's like such an easy methodology If you can just talk, you're running slow enough, right? And easy enough. But the key to that is like, man, I just know that I need to do more of that. And that's part of the patience piece. We all want to get fast. We all want to do this. But at this point, for me, running slow and really building up that framework is the thing I need to be doing. And I just don't think, I think it parallels the coming back from an injury and the sickness and things like that. It's just like, you just have to be patient with it. And I mean, there's nothing you can do to like, cheat time really. So it's like, you have almost an opportunity to really think about yourself in the long term and do the best thing for you, so, and it's almost forced. So let's like listen to that and maybe create a new habit with it.
But I have to have it now, Mike.
Yeah,
I want it now.
Yeah, I know.
I want to do it now. I had this race. I have to do it now. I signed up for it. I don't want to lose $200, but I'm willing to break my foot and go to the doctor and spend, $1,000 meeting my premium. But yeah, no, it's hard. And again, athletes are the fucking worst at it. Like they just really are. Sometimes I tell people, like, you're an idiot. Like, why are you doing this right now? Play the long game. And don't even call it playing the long game. Just like call it, taking care of the one body that I have. Because
it's self-respect, man.
Well, yeah. It's 100% agree. That's a perfect way to say it. It's like just self-respect. Like, what would you tell your kid to do?
Right.
What would you, you go out there and, if you're that parent, then, well, you're honestly a shitty parent. You don't put your kids in harm's way and tell them to hurt themselves. You tell them to be smart, or to stay home or get more rest. Like it's a very easy thing to do. But again, like most things in life, it's a lot easier to tell someone else to do it than do it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Save those efforts for racing.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't, and even then at that point, you're usually so fresh and so fit, then you're usually going to be fine anyway. Kristen, poking the bear. Top reasons people are slower in open water versus the pool. / best ways to calm pre-race jitters. Excellent question. And one, again, we were going to touch on anyway. Top reasons people are slower in open water versus the pool. Well, there's a lot. One, just general fitness. And we've, if you haven't, most people I think that have gone this far in the podcast, or maybe if you haven't, you picked it up in the last few. Listener had a Not So Good Swimming series. We really do simplify it in a way that it hopefully is allowed to be successful. Most people are too soft. I'm just gonna run down the list here, and you can add yours too. Most people are too soft. You swim too soft. You are way too dainty. And this is just getting me like riled up and ready to rock for open water swim session on Thursday. They're too soft. Like you can get away with soft swimming, right? Very delicate, what I call tea party swimming, in the pool, because you have nothing, right? You have your own lane. You got your black line. It's easy to sight. You got to make it 25 yards. There's no current. There's no waves. There's no chop. There's no 2,000 other people. You just kind of you have your own little safe space, right? You can just kind of slowly move your arms and then you wonder while you're moving slowly, right? And because you're not doing enough work. First things first, people are too soft. You're not forceful enough in the water. You're not powerful enough. You're weak, right? If you're a weak swimmer, you're going to be even weaker in open water. I mean, if you think it's just a pool thing, it's not. You're going to be even weaker in open water in that environment. Number two, your pool times are way overinflated. We talk about this a lot too. If you're a person who blasts off the side of the wall and you're footsore the next day because you're acting like a spaceship, launching into orbit, that's not going to happen. Most people, and myself included, if you're a person that can do a really, really good flip turn, you only swim 82 to 85 yards of 100. You push off the wall, you glide, you get extra. So think about how that adds up over 1,000. That's 150 yards extra, right? Yeah. That you're actually having to swim. And if you don't think that's a lot, try going from a 25-yard to a 50-meter pool. You think it's an eternity. Like you think someone dropped you into, Lake Michigan and you can't get to the shore. That's how long it feels when you go from 25 yards to 50 meters. So you're not strong enough.
That's why I don't like these 50.
Overall fitness.
I was just going to say, that's why I don't like these 50-meter world records or 50-yard world records, because it's not even swimming for those people. What do you mean
it's not swimming?
Well, I mean, they're doing a 50 in a 25-yard pool or whatever. It's like half of that isn't even swimming. It's just like...
yeah, which is why long course, like right now they've got the FINA World Championships that I was watching a little bit this weekend. They've got that's why they do it long course, because it's so much harder. You don't get the, especially with the way they can push off the walls. They do like, more than half of like 100 free underwater.
Yeah.
And so like, so that's one of the reasons why, a lot of athletes see a different swim time versus a pool time. Pool time versus open water time. That's a huge difference. Another reason is most athletes practice going the same speed in swimming. They just swim, a monotonous, 2K or 3K. They swim slowly, consistently. They don't try to get faster, right? That's just one of their big. They don't do intervals. They don't try to be fast like they would in cycling and running. They just get out there and swim back and forth and back and forth, and they get in the pool. 3 weeks out from their Ironman, they swim 4,400 yards straight, and they're like, yeah, just did my Ironman swim. No, you didn't. You swam in a pool for 4,400 meters. Yeah. There is no pool swim in an Ironman. There's just not. There's none, unless you're the Iron Cowboy. Okay. There is no 4,400 yard swim in an Ironman. So don't say you did the distance, because it's not open water. It's totally different. You got wind, you got chop, you got current, you got other people. It's just significantly harder. Watching the Ironman Des Moines footage, like it was a 2-loop course. You saw the professional men field wading through the age groupers, right? So that makes you slower, because you don't have clear, you don't have clear water. Panic is another one. It's like people hyperventilate, they panic, they tread water, they don't know how to gather themselves and kind of get calm, because they also don't know how to swim fast, because they all swim the same slow speed when they get in the pool. Like all these things, they seed that you seed yourself terribly, like, which is another thing. Like I can't. I've gone over this a million different times, and I went over this with another athlete after Ironman Des Moines, and I'll describe it this way. Seating yourself in the front is not dangerous if you're a slow swimmer. Think about a traffic. Like traffic in a regular interstate, when things aren't in a traffic jam, the faster cars do what? They pass you.
Yeah.
Left and right. They use their blinker, they pass you, right? That's how traffic moves. What are they doing in what happens in a traffic jam? What's everyone doing? The same speed. 10 to 15 miles an hour. You know how long it takes you to like, you put your signal on, and it takes you a minute for even somebody to let you in to get over. That's what happens that's why mass starts are so much safer, in my opinion, and so much easier. You let everybody like do their own work and figure it out, versus putting 500 people in the water who are the exact same speed at the exact same time. You're asking for a traffic jam, right? You're going to have to stop. You're going to have to tread water, and it's really, really hard to get around people. So if you start in the front, it's if they're not going to do mass starts, then stop doing the rolling starts. And honestly, what I would tell people to do is, or if I was a race director, I would put in, here's how I would do races. I want in the first corral, I want sub 1 hour swimmers and the 2 hour swimmers. Because
interesting.
And I'm going to. Yeah, because I'm going to take the sub 1 hour people first, and they go off. Then right behind them is the 2 hour mark swimmers. So immediately you're going to have separation, like drastic separation, right? So you get the 1 hour people go off first, the 200, and line up in the same corral, and then right behind them come the 2 hours. So there's immediate separation. You wait 5 minutes, the next corral, the 110 and below athletes, and the 150 to 2 hour athletes. Guess what? Immediate separation, right? It's easy to pass. It's easy to maneuver, because nobody wants to swim on top of people, because it slows you down. You're causing contact, and causing contact is a way for you both to get in trouble. You get kicked in the face. No one wants to get kicked in the face. People go around you. People don't choose, like watching the pros in Ironman Des Moines. They weren't swimming, right? They were showing like Tim O'Donnell. He was like number 2, I think, coming out of the water. He wasn't swimming on top of people, because the fastest way is to swim around people, right? Like take your own line. But you can't do that when you drop in 500 people who are the exact same speed at the exact same time. Like that's why it's so slow. And then that's also a reason why you can't swim as fast, because progress is impeded by having so many people in front of you.
It's like they need a slow lane and a passing lane or something, man. I don't know how they do that, but I kind of like my new corral. No, I really like that. Man, that sounds like something that might work. I just
it won't.
They'll never do that.
Yeah, they'll never.
But I do like the mass. You can just, if you want to start in the back, you start in the back and just start swing wide or do whatever you want to do and stay out of the way. But yeah, I guess the only other thing I would say to that is that a lot of people with slow swims, and probably including me, which I don't really track my mapping or any of that kind of stuff, but I'm sure I swim probably 400 extra yards in Ironman swim sometimes, it's like, and then you're looking at it like, but you swam, well, of course your watch will show up, right? But your time will show you at a slower pace. And the other thing is, like, even people that like look at that map, their swim map, and say, this looks really straight. I don't think it accounts for the continual micro adjustments that they're probably making. And I just don't, you know what I mean? It's not even swimming. It's just sort of steering. And I think a lot of people need to kind of get a better, we talk about, everyone's, talks about sighting, but for me, sighting, when I'm sighting well, I'm just swimming well, right? Like you talk about all the time, we go to the lake and we don't even sight, but we just kind of like mentally tune into a mark and swim at it without looking at it. And then not only that, if you have a good balanced swim stroke, you're just going to go straighter, but I'm sure a lot of people that stay right on the buoy line are every 2 yards, counter back, straighten it out, get over there. And like, those 2 yards of angles will probably add up, but they probably don't show up on that Garmin swim map. You know what I'm saying? It's like these little micro adjustments that go on.
They're not drastic.
Right. Yeah. So it just looks like a straight line, but there's probably a lot of sawtooth things going on in there where you're just overcorrecting. And that's one of the things I always try to work on is my overcorrecting. If I'm offline, I used to kind of just be like, if I'm like 5 or 10 yards off the buoy line, I'm like, shit, I'm losing my way. I would like immediately turn left and try to get back on the buoy line instead of just angling back, casually and swimming instead of always trying to correct. I mean, and we talk about this, but people a lot of times have really sore necks after a race, and it's because they're sighting like constantly when they're not used to sighting at all. And the thing about sighting is if you're not good at it and you oversight, your body's dropping every time you do it, and you're probably having to summon the energy to get back into a swim. It's like kind of like if you get to a wall and then start over, a little bit like that, where if you're not a good sighter and you're always bringing your head way up and looking all over the place and trying to recorrect, those kind of things. And I think basically that just comes down to just swim, and if you have to sight, I would probably almost sight less sometimes, depending on the course. And I know if you're not good at it, I'm just saying, if you're not comfortable with how a smooth sight,
It's not just a smooth sight. It's how you sight, right? If you're I guess, same thing, a smooth sight. If you're herky jerky with it, and if you can't sight and it's like that, it's fluid and it's part of your stroke, then every time you sight, you're having to reposition your body back to the top, right? To being flat. Because when you raise your head up, your butt and your legs sink, right? So you're causing drag, right? So it's just there's just a lot of differences in pool swimming and open water swimming, which is something that people just continue to ignore. And then when they go swim one time in open water to get quote unquote comfortable in their wetsuit, they're like, oh, this is it. You're like, no, that's not it. Like there's so many different things in your practice. Some people get more sore, right? Their arms get tired. It's a whole different kind of work. And if you're not strong enough, you're not fast enough, you haven't put yourself, in hypoxic positions where you're comfortable, gathering yourself, you don't know how to move around people. It's just a whole different environment, right? It's very similar to training on your trainer versus like being in the peloton on Tour de France is basically how it is, and people wonder why it feels so different. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of things, and I do, especially after this next week at camp, and we have 2 open water sessions, and I go, we spend a few hours doing that, and we'll come back next week to do something more in depth. But yeah, there's just a lot of difference that people just aren't willing. In my experience as a coach, as long as I've been doing this, open water and pool swimming are the things that people are the least likely to do, right? If there's hills, on their race, they're going to do a lot of hill work, right? If there's, same for the run, they're going to do a lot of hill repeats. They're going to do track, but when it comes to swimming, they're like, I'll just get in the water and noodle around for 2,000 and just swim straight. That's not, no one does that in any other sports, but everyone does in swimming because they either don't know what it takes to get better. Their form is terrible, right? And it's weak. And because in open water too, is something we always said when we do some analysis, is that swimming against a current or current in general exposes every single weakness that you have. Everything. You don't get a break, right? And swimming in a pool allows for that. If you have you're just swimming in something that's still, right? Swimming in a pool is very, very, very forgiving. Swimming in open water, you have to make adjustments, right? You have buoys to aim for it. And if you have side-to-side currents, you have to think about where to aim, where you don't swim towards the buoys. Your stroke's a little bit different. Your stroke rate's different with the current than against a current, right? There's a huge drop. When do you sight? How do you sight? What kind of stroke rate do you have? How much am I kicking? How much am I not kicking? In a pool, you just, push off the wall, swim carefully. Here, I get the other end. Let me check my SWAF score. My form goggles say that was a 210. All right, 210's pretty good. You're a 210 pool swimmer. You're probably a 225 open water swimmer, if not slower. So there's just a lot of things you can take into account. It's definitely a topic for a different podcast, but hopefully those are a few little pointers to satiate the appetite for more open water talk, because we definitely dropped the ball this week on that. Yeah. Pamela Barnhill.
Oh, we got something else.
It's a very Wisconsin last name. Barnhill. Yeah. Now that Coach Mike is located in Wisconsin, do you have any plans to host any camps or training events up there, Michael?
Do I? Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And her friend Sarah said yes with 2 exclamation points. I hope I pronounced that right.
We have a lot of
pop up from Minnesota for that.
We have a lot of things planned. As we were talking about earlier, though, we have to be a little patient with it. Things are coming together. We're kind of on a path for this year, for the rest of the summer for sure. But I think after summer, we can kind of start thinking about what may be coming to this, I guess, the Midwest in general, because of you. Yep, we're going to be spending a lot of time in Iowa.
Yeah. Back to Iowa again.
Well, I know. I love talking about Iowa because it's right in the middle between us now, and
it is.
We're going to be building a nice
farmhouse
in Iowa.
Is the cream of
and have everybody come by and do some work in the fields. No, who knows? But yeah, we definitely have some things planned for this area, and I am really stoked about it. Actually, it's we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, just let us get through our move, okay? If you ever move,
honestly, dude,
it sucks, okay, and it takes forever. Okay?
There's a lot going down right now.
We promise more things, better things to come. And then we go back to the next one. Oh, this is a very it'll be interesting to hear what you have to say, Andrew. Andrew Speck. If the morning of an Ironman they announced the order would be run, bike, swim, what do you think the do not start and DNF rate would be? 65%. Easy. Really? 65%. Easily. People wouldn't even finish this one. They'd be so tired. They would at least 65%.
DNS or DNF?
I would say, okay, good. Do not start. I would say 15% wouldn't even start the race.
Yeah, I'd probably be one.
That's not what I signed up for.
That's not what I signed up for.
And here's the interesting piece, right? That if you have so many athletes that, because like a Mother Nature comes in and, speaking of like, the last podcast about, people who just like can't not complain about something. You have all these events that happen, Mother Nature, the swim gets canceled or there's a wind or the bike issue or there's a storm. Like, God, I didn't even do didn't even do the whole distance. Like I'm not an actual Ironman, or I didn't do the actual 7.3. Like that, Chattanooga, like to add on the 144.6. I'm like, what if the race morning this is a great question. I think race morning, they're like, listen, we're either going to cancel the swim. Right, because you know upset people get about the swim getting canceled, because I trained all these hours, right? I swim once a week for a year, and they're putting all this effort to swim, and I can't even do the whole thing. We're just super disappointed. What if they're like, listen, we got a storm coming through. We can't get the swim in right now, but we can get you started on the bike. So we're gonna bike, then we're gonna run, and then by that time you can do the swim. How's that sound? Nah, I have to do it in order. Everyone would be like, no way. So I think you'd have like a 15 to 20% do not start, and then I think only 65% of people would finish.
Yeah, they wouldn't even get in the water.
No.
Yeah, it is an interesting question. I don't like to think about it necessarily, but because I'd probably be one of those people that was pissed, to be honest. I want to swim in the storm, man.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that.
I know, but I'm just saying. I like those, although then I need to shift my brain, because that would be like a completely interesting new challenge that no one probably had ever done. So I might want to eat it up. you know?
You might soak it in, be out there for the full 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You can say you're out there the longest. Lisa Stevenson, after doing 3 fulls on my road bike, I finally got sick of asking myself if I could get a tri bike and ordered one, or if I should get a tri bike and I ordered one. I hear people mentioning having a hard time getting used to riding their tri bike, but I'm not sure why. If I have a great bike fit and I'm already very used to riding my road bike with aero bars, what should I expect when I first start riding my tri bike? What is going to feel different or harder at first? Yeah, I think it's if you already have clip-ons on your road bike,
Yep.
then I don't think you're going to be in for a rude awakening, but it's, I kind of give the analogy, like it's, if someone was to put you in you hop in, there's 2 18-wheelers, right? One of them has a regular size steering wheel and you go to drive it for a mile and you come back and you park it. Then the next one you hop in, the steering wheel is the size of a quarter. That's the difference for most people going from a road bike to a tri bike, because of your road bike bars are so wide. That's what your hands are on the entire time. That's how you steer. It's the steering piece that gets people, versus athletes who go straight into a tri bike or go from a road bike to tri bike without having clip-ons on it. You take that really, really wide grip that's super stable, right? That's why you see, it's easy to climb with. And then you go to something so narrow, and a lot of people, their stem is too long, their position is really good, and you put all that, your front wheel is so sensitive in that position that if you don't know how to hold your line right, you're just gonna be wiggly the entire time. You've probably got bad core strength. You're gonna be wiggling over that. That's the difference, and that's why it's so hard for so many people to go from a road to a tri bike. But I think if you've had clip-ons and you're used to being in that position and being able to, steer and maneuver and even take turns in your TT position, which you should be able to, then it's not nearly as difficult as people think.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think that because when I remember going from a road bike to my first tri bike, and it was that Trek Speed Concept aluminum, and it was a night and day experience for me. I mean, I hated it. Like the whole position of being an aero was so difficult, and it's probably had a bad fit too, but just took a long time to get used to that. And then all of a sudden that bike became very comfortable. And then now I have the new one, the carbon. And for me, it's the stiffness. I mean, a road bike is just such it's hard to, really, it matters, it's just more stiff and it's not as like maneuverable or something. At least that's what I feel like. There obviously any bike is pretty stiff, but there is a difference. And for me, going from the aluminum Trek to the carbon it's still an adjustment for me a little bit, because it's so firm and stiff, and which is a good thing if you're capable of handling it and strong enough. For me, that's what it comes down to. I just feel like it really impacts my upper body. Plus, it's a little more aggressive, so I'm still trying to get used to that. I'm probably going to lean towards being less aggressive, because 6 hours in Ironman racing, it's like the last thing you want to do is be uber aggressive, especially on a hilly course like Wisconsin, which I'm thinking about, because it's not as imperative to be like an aero machine on a course like that. A friend of mine, he came in from Seattle and he was all aggressive and came to Wisconsin. He got so mad at me, man, because I didn't warn him about the roads, and I didn't even think about it much. But if the roads are bumpy and it's kind of like rough out there and hilly and stuff like that, a real aggressive position can be tough at a place like Wisconsin, I feel like.
Yeah. And it's the exact opposite, but very similar, to if you live somewhere like super hilly and you're not used to being in your aero bars for 5.5, 6 hours, and you go and do a race like Arizona, Florida, or something like that, that's pancake flat.
Yeah,
like you're only using the same muscles the entire time. And that's where you have to get very specific in your training. Is like, do I have what it takes to be basically quad only, for 5.5, my shoulders, my neck, my arms, they prepared to be aero for that long a period of time, and not having to sit up and shake them out, because then you're losing time. There's a lot of things taken into consideration. That's also why certain people like certain courses, right? But like, I don't ever think I could see you on like an Arizona or Florida where you're in the TT position aero for the entire time.
Oof, that sounds painful, man.
It does sound painful.
Same with a flat run course, man.
Yeah, it shreds your quads. You don't get any break. I like, give me a rolling course over a pancake flat run any day of the week.
Oh yeah, I know.
Iona. Let's see. Up there, yeah, Iona. If I have to do some of my swims in open water, should I try to replicate the workout structure or just do a long swim with some pickups instead? I've recently realized I'd much rather swim in open water than in the pool. Wetsuit is still very much needed over here, and I think I'm faster in open water just because I don't need to break my rhythm every 50 meters to turn around. Excellent question. I just had another athlete request that they have a lake or a place to swim right outside their work, and they just want us in open water. If you have training peaks, and depending on what level you have and how proficient you are in building workouts, I would, and I told this athlete this, is if you can build a workout done by time and by distance. My problem with open water distance and doing like setting up your timer or your interval to go off, by pre-workout and training peaks with distance, is that I never trust distance in open water. I just don't. I don't trust it. I don't think it's accurate. I don't think GPS signal pulls it up as nearly as well as people might think. So what I would do is, like, if you're going open water and you have like 2100s for the day on 20 seconds rest, and your usual 100 pace is 130, then I would create a workout that basically said, swim, base it on time, because you can pre-build bike workouts and run workouts based on distance, power, time, whatever it is. So I would base it and just say, interval 1 is swim open water for a minute 30. Then your interval goes off, stop, tread water. And if the pool rest is supposed to be 20 seconds, I'd probably give yourself 30 in open water, because it's going to be a little bit harder, and your rest isn't rest because you're still treading water. Because treading water isn't easy. It's actually quite difficult. And so I would probably give yourself maybe half plus the rest. And so if your rest is 20 seconds, and I would take, half that is 10, add it to give yourself 30, and then make that. But you can definitely make open water swims actual workouts. You would have your watch, send alert you, or, maybe it goes off again. Like if you want to do 200s, maybe get every 3 minutes, and then give yourself 45 seconds rest. But there's a lot of things you can do besides counting strokes and stuff like that with your watch if you want to take the time to pre-build it. Again, I wouldn't do it just based on distance, because I find it's way off, and usually it shorts you. But no, I would. You can definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of a stroke counter for that sort of thing. I also like to go hard for whatever I think a 50 might be, or 30 strokes or something like that, and then just kind of go hard, and then settle in and kind of go easy, and keep rotating that, like recovery, and start to learn your pace. Because I also think or understanding effort in the pool, in water is very difficult. I think it's even harder in open water, because you don't know how far you're going. You have no idea. You know what I mean? There's all these different variables.
Yep.
I always find myself going harder in open water. I think because it's just, I don't know if there's some tendency to want to get there faster, or get to safety or something. You know what I mean? Like these sort of things in your mind. And I was going to say this earlier about open water in general. It's sort of like the difference between the pool and open water, to me, is the sort of, like you said, the elements. But what that means is there's always something going on. Like you breathe, you swallow water because of a wave, or it like hits you in the face, or what was that on my foot, or that sun gets in your eyes. All these sorts of things. It kind of reminds me of what I've been doing on the mountain biking. It's like you don't have time to daydream as much when you're especially if it's kind of choppy out there or whatever, because it's always reminding you what you're doing. You can't kind of go off, and it's so funny, man. Yesterday I was thinking, I was doing that 15-minute loop thing, and I swear to God, we talk about how the minute your mind starts wandering, that's when like you'll hit a rock, or something comes up, or like there's a bump in the road, or like you'll twist your ankle on a route or something if you're running. The minute you did, and I did it yesterday, I'm like, okay, I think I got this going. I think I'm going faster this loop, and I'm trying to, I started calculating. Sure enough, I hit like a big rock and almost flipped it over. But like, and I feel like that's kind of the thing in swimming, is you have to be in the groove. You have to be mentally calm, and you have to just sort of take your punches and roll with them rather than get kind of alarmed. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you have to be really in the moment, but also just very calm with it all, no matter what, because in a race, especially because you could just be kind of, if you think you're drifting, I'm in a groove. Yeah. And all of a sudden somebody just comes out of nowhere and T-bones you or whatever. And it's just, you always have to be alert, but you can't be over alert, and you got to be kind of calm with it. It's an interesting thing, but I
like
think
that.
When we used to do open water, somebody asked me the same exact question a couple weeks ago about, hey, I love getting into this swimming, open water. What should I do? And I just think when we started, and you would always have us go to the buoy and back, go hard out and come back in easy, or vice versa, or whatever the heck case may be. And it was maybe about 150 yards or something total. And just find something like that and do loops or repeats, and 200 yards this way, or swim to one buoy and then chill, into your race pace on the next buoy, and then go hard and go back. They just kind of vary it, because I think that's one of the best things we can learn, is to understand our swim effort in the open water.
And fitness is fitness. Don't overthink it. You're still getting, if you're in the water for 50 minutes, you're still getting a 50-minute workout in, right? That's going to make you faster. I think a lot of people get so worried and obsessed about, leaving, a minute on the table, or one extra effort, or, I went in zone 3 and I should have been in zone 4, what's that? I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? Like that, you're never going to know, but the time is the time, right? Time and effort and doing things. And like you said, when we used to do the open water swim sessions, 9-10 years ago, when I started them at Anderson Row Beach, you guys might only swim, 1,800, 2,000, but you swam hard the entire time. And if you weren't swimming, you were doing a buoy, 100 meters out, cornering, swimming as hard as you can out, getting out of the water, running down the beach 200 yards, right? Aerobically, anaerobically, then diving in and going back in the water. Real world applicable stuff that was super hard. You take that intensity factor over, swimming the easiest 2,800 you can imagine in the pool with no one around. What's better, right? That's just one of those things where you have to understand that and not be so literal with time and with effort and what's better or worse in what you're doing, and how it affects you in a positive manner.
Yeah.
And that's it for today. We got a little bit more left, but I got to go pick up Hayden from camp. We hope you had a positive manner for you in this podcast and answered your question. We got a few more. We'll try to get to those next week after our camp is over and the dust had settled, but we'll focus on some open water swimming. It seems to be a hot topic. We had a few more questions below this that we didn't have time for today that we'll try to get to next week. It seems to be, again, a hot topic, which it usually is this time of year when you're trying to transfer your pool fitness and your swim fitness to open water. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. And you have more information on there as well about coaching. If you need a coach, click on the coach tab and scroll through a roster and see if anyone fits you best. As always, reach out to Mike. He's at CrushingIron@gmail.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, you can get a hold of me, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. I'll see you in a couple days.
See you Wednesday, bro.
All right, man.
All right, see you, dude.